Hello everybody, Jake, your resident content cowboy here. Yeehaw! On Mondays we do tier lists, on Wednesdays we wear pink.
Oh my god, I love your skirt. Where did you get it?
It was my mom's in the 80s.
Vintage. So adorable.
Thanks.
That is the ugliest effing skirt I've ever seen.
And it's Monday, so you know what that means. It's time for a tier list. Jake, it's Friday. What? Yeah, the week kind of got away from us. Well, we needed time to test things. Right, JK? We needed time to test things. Whatever. Okay, what a crew. They release a patch midnight on a Monday. You know that means it's gonna be hard for me to put a tier list together. It's almost like it's a conspiracy. What is Timmy doing? But I'm not gonna get all conspiratorial with you right now. That isn't even my thing. I'm Jake number 3, and my thing is, what is my thing? Why can't I remember anything about my reality? Our tiers for today, we have the God tier. We're only gonna have one God. We're not friggin' Norse around here. We've got the Hoopa tier. I will talk about that in a moment. We just have to talk about the Hoopa tier. We have our S tier, the star-studded tier. We have our A tier, the Addison. Good choice. I imagine in this situation, I'm talking to Addison, sorry microphone, and I'm telling Addison that they made a very good choice by picking these Pokemon. We have the B+ tier, which is upsetting. Almost as upsetting as having the B tier. Still got the B tier. There are things that will never be fixed, and I think it's something like this. And we, of course, have the Cramorant Memorial tier. Interestingly enough, I've removed the D tier from this list. I think this game is in one of the most balanced states it's ever been. Pokemon in the Cramorant Memorial tier will be considered our lowest tier Pokemon, but nothing in this game is completely unplayable right now. There are Pokemon that I think need some love, and those Pokemon are going to hang out in the Cramorant Memorial tier. But interestingly enough, that tier is a memorial tier to Cramorant because I don't think Cramorant's hanging out there. Let's start our tier list. Here we go. Hoopa's a problem. Let's talk about it. Hoopa is such an interesting Pokemon because you could definitely say that Hoopa is an S tier Pokemon, God tier Pokemon, one of the most important Pokemon in the game. You could say that Hoopa has rings. All of these things are true, and it's true that sometimes those rings are unbound. The issue with putting Hoopa on a tier list is it's so unique in what it does that there's no question that it's one of the most important Pokemon inside Pokemon Unite, if not the most important Pokemon inside Unite. But I think it's a little boring to just throw Hoopa up into the God tier because I don't think that really highlights what Pokemon I think is doing something really cool, unique, amazing right now outside of what Hoopa does that is already cool, unique, and amazing, and has been cool, unique, and amazing since Hoopa has been released. Hoopa is a staple of competitive play, and even in non-competitive play, I mean, Hoopa is really amazing. If your team doesn't have one and the enemy team does, you have a distinct disadvantage. Now, again, non-competitively, it's okay. It's okay to not have a Hoopa. It's really tough to not have a Hoopa in competitive play. However, it did get some nerfs recently. I'm interested to see what teams are going to do with it here in the regionals. However, I think you're going to see a lot of Hoopas. This Pokemon is just so unbelievably specific in what it does, and what it does is so unbelievably amazing, which is moving your allies to a location to fight, or to sneak a score, or to fight at Dreadnought, and then also it becomes this crazy thing. I don't know, it's just Hoopa. So I want to get that out of the way right away. Hoopa, the Hoopa tier. It's for Hoopa. No one else is hanging out in the Hoopa tier, but we are talking about supports right now. Let's talk about the rest of them. Let's talk about our next supporter, Blissey. Blissey is a Pokemon that has hovered usually somewhere in the middle for a while here. Middle and then moving up to A. And right now I think there's no question that Blissey is one of the better Pokemon in the entire game. The most recent balance patch has taken a Pokemon that was already crazy good and then just buffed its other moveset to make it so that healing is now also very, very strong. If they nerfed Blissey's Safeguard, I could understand maybe saying, okay, so Blissey's been rebalanced. They didn't want it to do what it was doing with Safeguard. Now it's focused more on healing. However, Egg Bomb is still amazing, even though it doesn't hit as much. They did nerf Egg Bomb. Egg Bomb's still amazing. Now Soft Boiled Egg Bomb is such a build. You will get games with almost 200,000 healing. I've seen games over 200,000 healing on this Pokemon. It's crazy what Blissey is doing right now, and I just think, without question, it is an S tier Pokemon inside this game. Our next supporter, let's take a look. Eldegoss. Eldegoss is an interesting one. I'm going to put Eldegoss in the B+ tier here. Eldegoss is not bad. It just competes against a few Pokemon for a similar role. Blissey heals better. Blissey shields better with Safeguard, although it only shields one person. However, Safeguard is just so much better. Hoopa, I think, performs better at range. And it also can use Hyperspace Hole for the healing. You could still use Trick, even though I think Trick is a lot harder to use right now. I just think while Eldegoss is good, it is hurt by the fact that there are so many other Pokemon that are really good in a similar role. So it's not that Eldegoss is bad, it's just that I think both Blissey and Hoopa, while different, are better than Eldegoss. And if you had a choice between having one of the three of them on the team, or two of the three of them on the team, I think both Hoopa and Blissey outshine Eldegoss. Eldegoss is pretty cool, and some people have been trying to use it sort of in more of an attacker role. I think this is good and fine, and B+ is a great place to put this Pokemon. Just as I'm talking about it, thinking about it, I think B+ is a solid place to put it. Mr. Mime. Mr. Mime might actually be better than this. So if you've been watching me stream at all, you know that I've got a lot of love for Mr. Mime right now, and it did receive a pretty cool buff. I still think a few things with Mr. Mime, when they nerfed its confusion, the fact that guard swap is a little difficult to hit sometimes, I think those issues with Mime hold it back a little. I think personal preference, I put Mime probably B+. In fact, you know what? I'm just going to put it B+, because I'm realizing when I say personal preference, this tier list is my tier list, so I think my personal preference kind of makes sense here in this situation. I think Mime is really strong. I think this new buff is good. I've noticed the stun. It's nice. I think Mime is very, very close. If they tweak it just a hair more, I think all of a sudden this becomes a huge meta choice. It's really good at level 4. Its Unite move is strong, recharges fast, it's tanky. Its issue is, I think, between Guard Swap and Barrier. I don't think either of them provide enough, and I would love to see a little bit of a tweak on Guard Swap, and maybe that would make this Pokemon even more viable. But right now, pretty solid. Like I said earlier, I think most everything in the game is very solid. Wiggly. Wiggly is, I think, the most underwhelming supporter of the supporters here so far. Wigglytuff at points has been way overpowered. I just think right now, with so many things sort of getting away from the ability to be put to sleep, Wiggly is it just kind of ratchets down in viability. I still think Wiggly's good. I think rollout Wiggly is still an option for a team that's heavy on scoring, but in general, I think Wiggly just kind of got power crept a little bit by the rest of the meta inside Pokemon Unite. Blastoise's change actually does help Wiggly a little bit. There are a few things that help Wiggly, but in general, it just feels like things are able to get away from Wiggly pretty easily, and that makes Wiggly worse. It definitely does. So I think Wiggly is really good. It's solid. But in general, I kind of like all the other supporters better right now. Not in a like them. Like, I like Wiggly, which I think means I want to date it. But I like it a lot. I love playing it. I just think it's a little undertuned right now. But don't get me wrong. Anything even in this B tier, I'm saying these Pokemon are totally playable. You know? You might even make an argument that it's B+. It's still good. I just don't think it's Blissey or Hoopa good. And I think there is a bit of a chasm here. I don't know if any of these move up into the A tier personally for me. Let's take a look. Where do we want to go next with our tier list? Let's start talking about... let's talk about speedsters. It's a short conversation usually because there aren't too many of them and there never will be. Absol. I think Absol is an A tier Pokemon. You're seeing it more competitive. You can play it in Path. You can play it in Jungle. It's pretty good, or Central Area, as the Pokemon Unite calls it. It's pretty good anywhere you put it. It's strong early, pretty strong middle, and actually, because of the Buddy Barrier nerfs, it doesn't do terrible late like it used to. I think if you're playing this Pokemon, Night Slash is clearly the superior option to Pursuit, and then I think Sucker Punch is an amazing counterplay move. I love seeing this Pokemon more and more, especially competitively, because I think it's just an exciting Pokemon to watch. Head on in there and try to get some big bursty KOs. I do think it gets shut down a little bit by how good a Pokemon like Blissey is, but in general, I think Absol's in a super solid place in the game right now. I would put it in the A tier here. Gengar is another one that I would put up into the A tier. For the longest time, I think Gengar was one of the worst Pokemon in the game. It started out as one of the most overpowered, and then they nerfed it into the ground, all the way into the ground, deep, deep, deep underground. It was buried 6 feet under because it was a ghost, baby. They nerfed it all the way to the ground. But after the Buddy barrier change, Pokemon are easier to KO. You can't barrier someone who gets caught by Gengar as easily. Now, the outplay potential on Gengar is huge, meaning that you can KO entire enemy teams with this Pokemon, and it's harder for the enemies to stop you if you're good with this Pokemon. High skill ceiling, you need to be very, very solid. You need to know when you go in, when you pick Pokemon off. But I actually think Gengar is doing really well in the game right now, which is very cool. Talonflame. Talonflame's a weird one for me. One of my favorite Pokemon. If you've watched me for a while, you know that this is a Pokemon I took into the Twitch Rivals tournament and did very well with it. I have been a huge fan of Talon ever since they buffed it. Right around the mobile release of this game, they buffed Talonflame. It was probably maybe a little bit after mobile. And ever since then, Talonflame has been an absolute monster. Right now, I kind of think the nerfs that they've been hitting it with, they've steadily been hitting this Pokemon with nerfs. And I think it's sort of death by 1,000 cuts. It's hurting it more and more and more. And when you have a meta in the game that is so tanky and so hard to burst down in a combo with Talon, you're in trouble, because Talon needs to be able to dive in, get a big KO, and then be okay after that. If you dive in with Talon and don't get a big KO, man, you're in trouble. And that's kind of where I feel like Talon's at right now. I was actually playing some Talon this morning. I want to put out a video on it. Just my thoughts overall on Talon being okay right now, but probably needs a little love. I think they might have hurt it too much, or some other Pokemon in the game are maybe a little too powerful right now, which could also be the case. Zeraora, my perennial lowest tier Pokemon for a little while here. Zeraora, again, this is a C tier. This is not unplayable. There are players who are good with Zeraora. Zeraora won the Korean Championships. I have a video coming out about that soon. I think this Pokemon has some viability. It levels way too late. Getting its second move at 8 is pretty late. It's kind of similar to a Dragonite situation, but its Unite move doesn't come until 10. It doesn't upgrade its second move plus until level 14. It's just, in my opinion, a forgotten Pokemon, and I think it needs something. Just bring its leveling down. If they brought its leveling down, if they brought everything down one level, all of a sudden I think this Pokemon rockets up in viability. But it just takes too long to get online. I don't think Zeraora is in a great spot in the game right now. That's why it's in my Cramorant Memorial tier. Let's talk about attackers here. So just mentioning Cramorant there. Let's start. Cinderace. Cinderace recently got some buffs. I still think Cinderace is an A tier Pokemon. There are times that Cinderace, I feel like, hangs out in the S tier, and basically inside this game, you've got sort of 2, now 3 big attack damage carries. Pokemon that are using their A button often to do a lot of damage, and that is Cinderace, Greninja, and Duraludon. To a lesser extent, you also have Decidueye, but that seems to be filling a very specific role in the game right now. So Cinderace, I think, is really good. I think the buffs to Cinderace are nice. I haven't really even tried the Blaze Kick nerf, but the Blaze Kick nerf I feel like is irrelevant. It's not the reason Blaze Kick was good, is that it does damage on the critical hit. It's cool that it does that, but the reason Blaze Kick is good is because you reposition yourself and you kick soccer balls at 100 miles an hour. Cinderace, I think, is really, really solid right now. It might start to outshine Greninja a little bit here. We're going to have to see. But right now, I just think you can't really say anything negative about this Pokemon, but I also don't think it's so overpowered that I view it as an S tier choice right now. I still, however, even after the nerfs, I feel like Greninja is probably in the best position it's been in the game in a long time. I feel the surf nerfs. I feel the surf nerfs. This is a song. I feel like when I'm playing Greninja, I can feel the difference with surf, but it doesn't mean that you can't still throw your Unite move, get a couple hits in, start surfing up the enemy team, a little surf and turf for them. I think that Greninja is still really, really amazing. I might be overvaluing it. It might be a little worse, but I mean, if I am, literally, I think this Pokemon is maybe in the A tier. I don't think there's much wrong with Greninja at all, even with that nerf to surf. Nerf to surf. Why is it that something rhymes and my brain goes, wow, Jake, you need to say this 8 billion times. Cramorant. I'm going out on a limb, and I think I'm about right to say that Cramorant is maybe B+. Maybe B+. Now, here's what it is. I still think Surf Hurricane is not exactly where it needs to be. Its Unite move is better, but I think the outplay potential, especially when I see some of the top players in the world playing this Pokemon, the outplay potential from Dive Air Slash is really amazing. I think Dive Air Slash has a very, very high skill ceiling. If you are incredible with it, I think you are breaking people's anchors. You're making them... Did I say anchors? You're breaking anchors, okay? These ships can't even dock. So I think this Pokemon is really, really good with Dive Air Slash. I'm not as convinced with Surf Hurricane. I don't think that build is where it needs to be. You're not doing enough as this Pokemon. I think its Unite move still is not the greatest, but you feel it. You feel the strength of it. When it first got changed, I thought, I don't know if I'm feeling this yet, but I actually do feel it now. I think B+ is where I'm going to leave this Pokemon. It might be B, but again, B+ with Dive and Air Slash, maybe even C with Surf Hurricane, maybe B with Surf Hurricane. Gardevoir. Hey, Gardevoir, welcome to the A tier. Welcome to the A tier, buddy. Gardevoir got like 5 buffs, and it already was on the precipice of doing something really cool inside the game. And now that it got 5 buffs, I really think this Pokemon is in a great position. I know evolving at 8 and not getting its Unite is, you know, you're thinking of its Unite move. That's one of the most important things, but that just gives you more viability. Early Confusion gives you better clear for the central area or lets you play in path a little bit better. Psyshock is just better now. I think overall, Gardevoir is just really good. I hope they don't hurt it at all. I think it's really good. Definitely not S tier, not crazy overpowered, but a very, very solid choice. Next attacker here, Ninetales. Ninetales is doing good. You know, I thought the buffs, the nerfs hurt it a little more than it did a while back, but I actually don't think so. I think Ninetales is still doing really well. To be clear though, Ninetales, you know, when you're playing by yourself, you're still kind of a sitting duck a lot of the time. Reminds me of Surf Hurricane Cram, sitting duck. You're still a little bit of a sitting duck at times. However, I think Ninetales is so strong in path or lane. It's just so incredibly strong, so incredibly mean, does well through most of the game, and you can kind of A-press your way to some pretty solid moments with this Pokemon. So I think Ninetales is doing really well, and I can't really say much different about Pikachu. I think Pikachu is also still doing pretty well. Again, both of these Pokemon, I feel like when you're by yourself, you could get really disappointed by the fact that you need a team around you to hopefully get someone away from you for a second. If I'm being honest, I think I'm liking Ninetales more than Pikachu right now, but it's hard to say that both of them aren't doing pretty well inside the game. One thing that's cool about Pikachu is I feel like every single move on Pikachu is good right now. Like every single move you choose is good on Pikachu. Our next attacker, Sylveon. Sylveon's a weird one. So I'm going to put Sylveon in the A tier. And here's what I think about Sylveon. I think Mystical Fire is still not the call. I don't think so. I was playing around with it a bit after the bug fix. I'm not sure exactly what they fixed, but I still think it's not the call. Hyper Voice is the call for this Pokemon, and competitively, I think we still might be seeing some Sylveon splitting up that center area. The nice thing is this Pokemon evolves at level 4 and is then immediately a menace for a very, very long time. I'm happy to see so many players getting the hang of this Pokemon and playing it well. I think it's doing well, but if I'm being honest, this one teeters closest to B+ for me out of a lot of the attackers that I've put up here. I actually think because of how good it is competitively, we might be overvaluing this Pokemon a little bit. You only get to Unite twice. Its Unite move isn't very good. Here's the deal with its Unite move. So I feel like I should talk about why I think it's not good. You only get to use it twice. It has the craziest recharge in the entire game. It does very little damage. What its Unite move does that I actually think is very good is it kind of sets you up to not get KO'd no matter what situation you put yourself in. So you can kind of use this Unite move to make your way towards the enemy side here. Like if my big old head here is Zapdos, making your way towards the enemy side, running past Zap, and you're kind of seeing if any enemies are around over here in this area. And then if, boop, they're all there and start attacking you, you can just Unite move, Fairy Frolic, I think it's called, jump into the air, and you basically make yourself invulnerable for a minute. You get all the health back that they hit you with when they caught you. So that part of its Unite move is really good. The only issue is you don't get to use it too many times, and it does almost no damage. So that is Sylveon. I think low A for me for Sylveon. Our next attacker, Venusaur. Venusaur I think is a solid B+. I think Venusaur is this weird kind of Pokemon. It might be one of the highest B+ Pokemon in the game. It's always been okay. So at one point it was crazy overpowered, and then they really pulled back Petal Dance Giga Drain enough so that you're like, oh, this Pokemon's good, but you kind of need a comp around it. You'll notice some teams that run Venusaur, they have a very specific team composition set up around this Pokemon to keep it alive and kicking. And when they do that, yeah, it's kind of a beast. When it gets to level 13, gets its upgrade. I'm interested to see if actually Solar Beam sees more play, given that it just got a buff. But right now, I'm just going to have to leave it here in this B+ tier. Very, very solid choice. But at no point do I feel right now that Venusaur is so overpowered that it's a must pick or anything like that. Decidueye, I think, is still A. It's still A for me. Competitively, it has a weird spot. Because competitively, this Pokemon, it gets attacked heavily. And you can dive on it and KO it. But if your team is decent, and they're around you at all, able to push enemy Pokemon away or just stop them from one-hit KOing you, I think Decidueye is insane. It's secure, it's a last hitting potential. Spirit Shackle is just nuts. I think this Pokemon is great. Really, really great. And not that I'm really ordering this, but I think if Sylveon's low A, I mean, I think it's a little more solid than Sylveon right now. Let's see, our next attacker, Duraludon. This is probably where I break from a lot of the community here. I think people are still undervaluing this Pokemon. I don't think it was nerfed hard enough. I think Dragon Pulse is still really amazing. I think in most all situations, if you know how to play a Duraludon, you are stealing everything. You're just so mean at objectives. You're so mean in mini fights. They did nerf it. It needed the nerfs. It was crazy S tier overpowered. Now I think it's very, very solid. I think teams are sleeping on this Pokemon. I really do. I think Duraludon's still pretty dang good. And then we have Espeon. And Espeon's a weird one. I think Espeon is maybe, I think it's either B+ or B. So the thing with Espeon is I think they released it not crazy overpowered, but this is about where you want a released Pokemon to be. B or B+, and that's about where it sits. I was a little more excited about Espeon early. The thing that I love about this Pokemon is its last hitting and secure in path is incredible. I think its Unite move is also really, really good. I've found that its second move choice is very underwhelming. So Psyshock is far and away the best move for this Pokemon. And then Psybeam and Future Sight, I think both are fine. And I think that's one of the things holding this Pokemon back. It has very little mobility. That's a big thing. And then both of its secondary move choices are fine. I think if that was changed a little bit, this Pokemon would rock it up. But right now, I think about a B+ for this seems about right. And those are all of our attacker Pokemon. Let's talk about all-rounders. Char is an A. Char's very good. Charizard, you're very, very good. Charizard, I think, is an A-tier Pokemon. I don't know if that's going to change. The issue with Char is its Unite move getting canceled, but in general, I think Char is still really good. I mean, here's the thing. If you play Char in Path, it's not so good. If you play Char in the central area, I think it's very, very good. The issue with Char, if you're going to find the biggest issue outside of its Unite move getting canceled in some very annoying ways, the biggest issue with Char is that you're taking the central area from other Pokemon. If you're comparing it to others, if one of your allies is good and they want to play Greninja and you want to play Charizard, I think you have to acquiesce to the Greninja every single day of the week. And that's probably one of the big issues with Char, is that it's competing for a very exciting area with tons of experience that you might want to give to another Pokemon. Because of that, you could see Charizard maybe lowering down another tier, but it's not that Char is not good, it's just that it's competing with a lot of Pokemon for that role. Let's take a look here. Let's do Garchomp. I think Garchomp is not doing great. I really don't think it's doing well. I think it has a lot of trouble sticking to an enemy still. You can get some decent KOs with it. I know there are some players out there that swear by this Pokemon. They love it. I'm not saying it's unplayable. There's nothing in this game unplayable right now. But, you know, Garchomp has just been struggling for a long time. Maybe since the game has been out. And I think there were moments, little bright spots for this Pokemon. But, yeah, it's just not great. It's not terrible. Nothing's terrible, but boy, it's not great. I would love to see some changes to this Pokemon. Give it a little love. Let's do Azumarill. Why not? Let's talk about Azumarill. I'm gonna put Azumarill in the B tier for the first time ever. They gave it more health. They gave it lifesteal. This actually might be what makes this Pokemon a lot more viable. I might be underselling it. It could be a B+ Pokemon. I know some teams are excited about trying this. The thing that's great about Azumarill is always having a Unite move, which means you always have a buddy barrier, which means in many fights, if you can just jump into that back line, you have a very good shot of deleting an enemy carry Pokemon, like a Decidueye, Cinderace, Greninja, etc. If you can do that, then this Pokemon has incredible value. I still think it's a little not super there yet, but I do like Azumarill. I think they did some nice buffs for it, and I definitely am pulling it out of a bottom tier choice right now. Lucario is not doing okay. Enough of this. Lucario's S tier. I mean, what do we say? I told you. Hey, listen to me. Listen to me. You listen to me right now. I told you that when they were going to nerf this Pokemon, they're never going to nerf this Pokemon. It's never going to happen. Forget it. Don't even think about it. It's going to be S tier. It was S tier when the dinosaurs roamed the freaking earth, and it's going to be S tier when we're all gone and the dinosaurs come back, okay? So Lucario is S. Just deal with it. Just deal with it, all right? Deal with it. Machamp, I think, is A. Might be really high A. Not that I'm ordering this, but Machamp is really close to Lucario in my opinion. I don't think it's as good as Lucario. I think Lucario outshines it. It's the mobility of Lucario, the last hitting potential of power up. Just Lucario, I think, outshines it. However, I think Machamp is great. I think it's doing so good right now. I'm loving Machamp here. Let's see. Zarina, I think, is solid. It might be A. It might even be, it might be A, but I'm going to put it high B+. So my thoughts here on Zarina are, I don't know if it fully competes with Machamp and Lucario, but man, it's right in there. They gave it some buffs, which are minor, but nice. And I just think Stomp is so good. Stomp Zarina, if you can just get a couple stomps off, nothing exists. It's just it's kicking craters into the earth, and there's nothing that exists inside. Well, the crater, you see, when they kicked the crater, the dinosaurs. Moving on from that thought, I just think Zarina is very good. I think it's really, really good. And I don't know if it competes with the other two, but I think it's really good. Let's see. Dragonite. I think Dragonite's also probably a B+. It might be an A. So it got some buffs, but it's similar to Zarina's buffs, and I think they're good buffs. But I don't know if that makes Dragonite a must pick or anything like that. I think it's solid, and I think it's solid in the central area. I think Hyper Beam is still great. I think it secures objectives in an amazing way, but it's competing with a lot of Pokemon. It struggles in path. I like it, and I don't like Outrage. Outrage is not good, but I do like Hyper Beam Dragonite. I think it's really solid. I think everything in the B+ tier here right now is maybe a Pokemon that you wouldn't think of first. I'm realizing as I'm looking at this, by the way, it's a Pokemon that you might not think of right away as a great choice, but all of them are super solid, and that makes total sense to me for Dragonite. Alrighty then, Aegislash is an A-tier Pokemon, knocking out some other Pokemon. It didn't knock anything out, it just made our tier list bigger. So, I think Aegislash is really good. It's close to an S tier for me, but I still think it can kind of get deleted pretty quick. However, if you're in the flow with Aegislash and you're just fighting the enemy team, juggling between your Wide Guard and your Sacred Sword, it's really hard for teams to deal with. I think the big problem with this Pokemon, it just feels like when it's in Blade form, it's so incredibly weak that if your team has any idea what's going on and you can catch it in Blade form, it's just done. That's the only thing holding it back. Don't get me wrong, I think this Pokemon's amazing. If it wasn't so squishy in Blade form, I actually think it would probably be an S tier choice. It might be one of the best Pokemon in the game if it was there, which is cool. Isn't it cool that this Pokemon releases kind of middling, maybe a little like Espeon, sort of high B+. They tune it up a little bit, and then all of a sudden it's one of the better Pokemon in the game. You love to see it. But there we go. Those are our all-rounders. Moving on to our defenders right here. I think there's some fun stuff happening with the defenders right now. So let's start with just one of my faves. I've said this many times. I think you're wrong if you think Greedent's not an S tier Pokemon. It's so good. It's so good, so incredibly unique. It's so good. It's so freaking good, so freaking annoying. You can put it in so many different positions. This Pokemon's great. It's so great. I love Greedent, and I just think it's such an incredibly cool Pokemon in the game right now. You could make an argument that maybe it's A, but the fact that nothing else really does what this Pokemon does, I just think it's great. I think it's an S tier Pokemon. I really do. Our next Pokemon, let's go with Mamoswine. I think Mamoswine is a solid B? B plus maybe? It might be B plus. I might move Mamoswine down. I like Mamo. Early on, it's pretty amazing. I think it still needs a little love for its Unite move. And then, it's got to compete with some other Pokemon in the defender role that just seem to outshine it a little bit lately. I bet even some slight Mamoswine tweaks, and all of a sudden this is kind of one of the meta defenders. But right now, I think it's really good. I think some people are sleeping on it, honestly. I think it's super solid. Let's see. It's got thick fat. We're going to go with, let's talk about Trevenant. I think Trevenant's an A tier Pokemon. I think Curse Hornleech is amazing. I think Pain Split, while it's kind of fun, I just don't think it works as well. You can set up some really cool situations with it, but I don't think Pain Split and Woodhammer are really there right now. But Curse Hornleech, I think, are amazing. We saw this Pokemon used in the May finals in the top path to such amazing degree. I just think this Pokemon is super solid right now. Again, another Pokemon that released pretty underwhelming, but they tuned it up. They kept making it better and better, and this is, I guess, a little silver lining to anyone who's bought a Pokemon and thinks, oh, I can't believe I bought this. Like, give it a little time. A lot of these Pokemon get moved up to become very, very viable, and I think Trevenant is extremely good right now. Our next Pokemon, Crustle. This is going to be the highest a Pokemon's rocketed from the bottom in a while. So it's weird. I was playing X Scissor Crustle before the buff. And the reason I was playing is because there was an achievement for it. So I was just doing it to get the achievement. And I found that I was actually loving it. I was doing great. I was running critical hits. I always run critical hits on Crustal until they took them away for a little bit. But they still had them for X-Scissor, I believe. I was running critical hits, and I was shocked with how much damage I was doing then. And now the buff, it's weird. It's a very minor buff, but a cooldown buff to X-Scissor. Basically, by the time you're done using X-Scissor, it's up in just another couple seconds. So you're always finding opportunities to hit with it, and then you're hitting with big critical hits. I'm kind of loving this Pokemon right now for the first time in a while. I think it's more viable solo, way more viable solo than competitive, but I don't know. We could see some team trying to run it. We really could. I think it's weird how a minor buff like that all of a sudden can help it out a lot. Slowbro, I think, is B+. I think Slowbro is very, very good. Competitively, I think better than by itself. I don't think Scald has changed its viability too much. I think Surf is still better. Scald has turned it into a different kind of Pokemon. I'm excited to see if anyone tries to use that, but I think competitively, Scald might just be, you know, a bit of a throw. I don't think it's as good. It's hard to overstate the value of knocking a Pokemon up and not letting them take an action for a moment. It's insane. However, I mean, they really did tune it up. Scald is a lot stronger right now. I think Slowbro's doing really well. Blastoise. This is one I was kind of saving this one for a while. Blastoise was S tier for a bit, and it got some nerfs, and I do feel like they've knocked it down to the A tier. It might actually be hurting more than I think. After playing it a few games, I played it a few games. I tried Hydro Pump just to see if I felt like that cooldown was enough to really make me want to be playing Surf, Hydro Pump, Blastoise, and I don't think so. I don't think the cooldown for Hydro Pump does it. Maybe if the cooldown was 2 seconds or maybe even more, Hydro Pump, it could feel a little more viable, but right now, no, I don't think Hydro Pump's the way to go. I still think it's Rapid Spin Water Spout, and I don't know, I thought it was still pretty good. Here's the thing, though. We'll have to see how much this Unite change really hurts it, because you've got to remember, its Unite move, even though it does less damage, it still knocks everyone around you up into the air. They're not able to act for a moment here. So I think this Unite move is still very good, but I feel like the damage could be an issue on it, and then of course changing the way Rapid Spin could be an issue. I might actually be overselling Blastoise. It might be knocked down to a B+ tier, but right now I still think it's a very good Pokemon. And then we have Snorlax, who I personally think is in the worst spot of all the defenders. I think if you're gonna have a move like Yawn, you need it to do more. If you're gonna have a move like Flail, it's just such a hard Pokemon to want to play with Flail, because it kind of reminds me of Outrage Dragonite, where you're asking this Pokemon to perform in a role that's not as good as other Pokemon could possibly do that role. Or Scaldbro. Scaldbro's another one. Yes, you're doing a lot of damage with Scald, you're attacking a lot, you're kind of tanky, it's pretty fun, but it feels like, well, why would I have a Scaldbro when I could have a Ninetales or something? I know it's a weird consideration, but when you're taking a Pokemon like Snorlax and you're kind of making it a brawler, I just think, well, why wouldn't I have Machamp if I wanted a Pokemon to brawl, or Aegislash, or if I wanted a Pokemon that's a defender to do damage, why wouldn't I just play Rapid Spin Blastoise? So it's weird. I like Snorlax, but I do think it needs a little bit of love. So now it's time to choose our God tier Pokemon for this patch here, and I think for me, there's no question that it's Blissey. I don't know if you could tell that from the beginning, but for me, there's no question. I think Blissey's insane right now. I think its healing is crazy. I wrote overpowered I try not to write OP in my videos unless I think something is actually OP, and I think Blissey is actually OP right now. I think this amount of healing is disgusting. Everyone wants to discuss me. That must mean I'm disgusting. Blissey's egg bomb soft boiled build is disgusting. I think it's really amazing. So there you go. I hope you enjoyed that tier list. I hope I gave you a lot of insight as to why I put the Pokemon where I put them. I really love doing these, and I appreciate that everyone loves checking them out. And now it's time to just have a little fun. Boop, 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 boop. Boo 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 boo. Boo 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 boo. Ba 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 ba. Yeah. You gotta make it believable. You gotta make it somewhat believable. Yeah. So there we go. I think the change to Solar Beam really makes Venusaur crazy. Maybe the craziest Pokemon in the game. It's better than Spirit Shackle right now. So yeah, I just think it's really nuts. And then Crustle, I mean, this Pokemon went from 0 to hero in no time flat. A true Hercules story for this Pokemon. Azumarill, obviously, like I said, all those buffs to Azumarill has made it one of the best Pokemon in the game. And now we're seeing Talonflame make it right back into that S tier. Blastoise getting really, really hurt by this nerf. Let me know what you think in the comments. Thank you all for watching. Thank you for listening. I love you. And I'll see you all next time.